As Mark walked into the room, Benny looked up from his work, exposing Mark to Benny's feelings of frustration and desperation that were overtly apparent in his face. Mark knew that Benny had been a teaching assistant the prior semester and had stopped to ask for some advice. Mark took a moment and looked around. 2 desks occupied the cubicle with papers scattered all over. There was an additional desk stacked with papers and books on the other side of the cubicle. Mark had to talk over the noise coming from adjacent cubicles occupied by TAs from various departments. At Benny's feet, a file cabinet holds statistics instructional material. "You look overwhelmed," Mark said in a low voice, in case Benny did not want to be disturbed from looking over the papers scattered on the floor. Without looking up from his work, "Overwhelmed isn't the word for it. Lincoln emancipated the slaves, but didn't free the TAs. All this work has to be graded, and they don't know what they're doing," Benny said without looking up. "Since you taught last semester and this is my first time, I was wondering if you could give me some advice and direction on writing my first test for the baby stats classes I'm teaching," Mark asked. "Bottom drawer of the cabinet, you'll find a folder labeled for baby stats. There are a couple of versions. Pull one out that looks good, and that's all there is to it." Benny hunched closer to his desk and pulled his chair forward, allowing Mark to reach behind him. "How do I know what this covers, if this covers what I taught? For that matter, what book do the questions come from?" Mark queried as he reached down to take out the folder of tests. He paused and added, "Will this match the objectives I have in the course syllabus?" "Who cares? They're in baby stats, and they complain even when you test them on what you taught, and they never read the syllabus anyway. If you want, just change a few numbers in the problems, and you're good to go." Benny muttered, still not looking up. "I'm using a new edition of the book." Benny cut him off before he could finish. "Don't make more work for yourself worrying about whether those freshmen learn stats or not. Your function is to put it out there and then test them. It's up to them if they decide to learn it." Mark felt that Benny had made that statement before and really meant what he said. In the forum, you'll be reflecting and sharing your thoughts and ideas on why assessments are given and the objectives of assessments. From the case study scenario, consider the following. How do the choices that Mark and Benny make influence their roles as TAs? And what effects will these types of decisions have on your role as a TA? How do the choices that Mark and Benny make affect the students? And how will your decisions on assessment affect your students? And finally, what are the moral dilemmas that Mark and Benny face in assessing their students? And what dilemmas do you face?